Joining us now, a Republican from Tennessee, Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn. Tennessee, by the way, a huge coal state. Want to ask her about the president's declared war on coal with his climate change speech this week. But first, we've got to talk about the big news out of the Senate yesterday. That would be the immigration package that passed with a pretty strong vote. You said yesterday with a statement, Congresswoman, that this is dead on arrival. Why is the Senate package dead on arrival in the House of Representatives?
It is dead on arrival for a couple of reasons. Number one, the amnesty provisions that are included in the bill. And number two, our chairman of Judiciary, Bob Goodlatte, has said repeatedly that we in the House are going to go through regular order and we are going to address one issue at a time, which means we'll take up border security, we'll take up other security provisions, we will take up ICE reforms, we will deal with the criminal illegal alien population, and we will deal with visas. And the work visa, the green card, all of those issues around visas, including when you enter and exit, tracking people that are in the country, because some of our pockets of those that are here illegally have the illegal entrance and exit problem. People overstay their visas.
All right, so Representative Marsha Blackburn's our guest. I have a question because there's a really interesting analysis of where the votes might lie by Charlie Cook of the Cook Political Report, a guy who basically knows his way around vote counting on Capitol Hill.
Absolutely.
He says, look, there are 33 members of the GOP conference in the House who have voted 4 out of 4 times against any bipartisan legislation. There are some 69 that have voted 3 out of 4 times. He concludes then that there are about 102 GOP members that the leadership cannot regularly rely on when it comes to bipartisan legislation. And then he says the coalition of the willing, those Republicans who are willing to side with Democrats from time to time, amounts to only 57. When you look at these numbers and that you hear all of the talk, as you said, that the legislation is dead on arrival when it arrives, what are the serious chances that you can come up with a bill that the Senate would find in any way acceptable?
Well, I think that there again you go back and look at our approach to this. We are going to take these issues one at a time. We are not going to do a big, comprehensive, massive bill that is 2,000 pages and takes 3 days to read and months to understand. That is not what you're going to see come out of the House. You're going to see a very thoughtful and thorough, focused process to address these issues. What we hear repeatedly from the American people is that the system needs to be fair, that the system needs to respect the rule of law, that the laws that are on the books need to be enforced, those that break the laws need to be punished. And so because of that, what you will see us do is take this incrementally, one piece at a time. We're not going to do a great big bill. I don't know why people keep thinking we will.
I get that, and I appreciate that, and we'll be watching with great interest. But even those individual pieces are going to have a hard time getting through the Democrats on the Senate. So ultimately, I guess what I'm trying to get at is, have we seen the high watermark of what actually immigration reform might look like? In other words, can you actually get anything passed that can then pass muster with the Democrats over in the Senate?
I think that if the Senate is willing to work with us on one issue at a time, then you probably can. But to say we've got to take it, and bear in mind, trying to do it comprehensively is what threw this process off the rails in 04, 05, and 06. And the House at that point wanted to go through and secure the border first and then take the other issues one at a time. The Senate did not want to do that. So quite frankly, I feel like this issue could have been solved a long time ago if the Senate would have been more willing to address things one at a time. Now, the Senate should have learned their lesson by now, that great big bills that you have to pass so that you can then read it and figure out what's in it and then turn it over to agencies, whether it is the Affordable Care Act or whether it is Dodd-Frank. Any of these things cause so much more trouble and they cause problems that they don't intend to cause, and They don't solve the problems they were supposed to solve. So I think, and there were lessons to be learned from the 86 immigration bill. People are tired of this, and what they want to do is see a legislative body work through regular order in an understandable manner and take these components one piece at a time and do a very good job of it. Do that one thing well, and then move on to the next item.
Representative Marsha Blackburn's our guest. She's a Republican from Tennessee, and you are also the vice chairman of the Energy and Commerce Committee there in the House. And the president is very worried about the weather, and he would like to change the weather, Congresswoman. And the way he thinks he can change the weather is by regulating coal in a pretty substantial way. And I guess through the power of his personal persuasion, he's going to get China to fall in line and regulate their emission standards as well. What do the good people of Tennessee think about the president's proposals about coal?
Well, the good people of Tennessee think, quite frankly, if you're out here declaring a war on coal, which is what the president's environmental policy director, Doug Schrag, has said, they need a war on coal. So if you've got a war on coal, then you've got a war on jobs. And if you've got a war on jobs, you've got a war on the American worker. And quite frankly, a lot of my constituents say, look, we are tired of having too much month left at the end of our money, and we want to get back to work. We want to get back to a point where incomes are rising. We're tired of this where they're stagnating, and I think it is, quite frankly, interesting to look at what some of the IPCC scientists who supported global warming are now seeing. They're saying, wait a minute, we've started to cool, and now the temperatures have plateaued, and global warming may have been a cyclical process, but it is probably not something that is on a trajectory.
No. This is settled science. The debate is over. The president said so.
In their dreams, it is over. But in the reality, when you look at the science, when you look at the temperature readings, when you look at the temperature of the Earth, they're wrong.
All right.
Real quick. Did the raid on the Gibson Guitar Factory in Tennessee have anything to do with the political leanings of the company's owner?
Well, this is one of the questions that we're asking. We still don't know why they went in there with guns blazing. But by the way, let me tell you a secret. They said they weren't a SWAT team. Don't call them that. They were federal agents bearing firearms.
All right.
So, we don't know exactly still to this day what happened with Gibson, but it is a connect-the-dot thing. So let us follow the trend and the bouncing ball through this administration. Whether it is auto dealerships that were closed, whether it's the raid on Gibson, whether it's the unfair targeting of individuals and groups by the IRS, whether it's the HHS out trying to raise money from people they regulate to help stand up Obamacare, whether it is DOJ with Fast and Furious and the AP and the CBS scandals and the issues of Benghazi that are out there with the Department of State. I think what the people of this nation have seen is that their worst fears have been realized, and they are seeing their government, which is to be a government of the people, by the people, for the people, being turned against them and used against them, and they're considered guilty until they can prove themselves innocent.
Good stuff, Representative Marsha Blackburn. Thanks so much for joining us. And, Wilson's birthday's coming up. I might need you to help me to swing a care package for Gibson guitars there.
Yeah, well.
Help me out with that. Thank you, Congresswoman.
See ya.
Yeah, good folks. Okay, listen, thanks a lot, Marsha Blackburn from